Welcome to the Pink and Green Podcast, where we explore the rise of Vermont soccer through the lens of community, culture, and the game itself, featuring stories from Vermont Clover FC. Join us as we talk with players, coaches, and the people shaping the future of the game in Vermont.
Guess.
Welcome to the Pink and Green Podcast. I am AJ Murray, and this is Chris George. Chris, how are you doing today?
I am living the dream over here. It is a beautiful day. I mowed the yard. It is suburban, 2 cars, 2 kids, all the average. It's good. It's good.
Nice. I attempted to do that this weekend, and my lawnmower broke. So I had to trail it over to the local repair shop, drop it off. And as I'm dropping it off, I realized, fudge, I forgot the key to the mower at my house. So I had to go back to my house, drop the trailer, grab the key, go back to the shop. That was a pain in the ass. So the joys of home ownership, as they say.
What kind of mower you have? It sounds like a tractor.
Yeah, it's like a ride-on Husqvarna.
Husky, yeah, all right. Mine is a John Deere. I got the S220 because it's got the upgraded clutch, and now that makes me sound really kind of bougie. But when you live on a yard that the approximate average pitch is like this, you need the upgraded transmission, man.
You sure do.
No joke. I live on a cliff, and my yard is, like I have a walkout basement, and the other end is like, I don't know, the other end of the yard is like 6 or 8 feet higher. It's no joke, man. So you need the upgraded clutch on your S220.
I need something. I need something to keep mine running, but it sounds like you definitely need it. That's great. I couldn't imagine mowing a yard with that much of a pitch. That's nuts. Pretty excited for our guest today. I have sort of worked with him a little bit over the past few weeks, only like grazing through texts and one video meeting. So I'm very eager to get to know him a little bit more. Our guest today is Trey Bosworth. He's the creative director and co-founder of Vermont Clover. And Trey, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited to be here and super excited for what's going to come for this Pink and Green podcast. So,
yeah,
excellent.
I can say unequivocally, Vermont Clover would not exist without Trey. That's true. Because the origin story starts with Trey, and also he named it.
Okay. All right. It sounds like there's a lot to get into. So, Trey, if you could give us a little bit of introduction, what got you into the game of soccer? How do you get here today, minus the part where you started the idea for Clover? Because I want to dive into that deeper with both you and Chris.
All right. Yeah. I mean, my roots in soccer really just started from really almost like my early childhood. My dad was huge into soccer. He played at UVM back in the day. And so we had always play, I'd always go to Sunday League soccer in Middlebury. That's a huge part of who I was when I grew up. And I've always been a part of youth clubs all around Vermont. I started at Panther Soccer, which my dad actually coached at, and also the rec league. And that was kind of where I really enjoyed every single day I was playing. I was playing with some of my best friends. And we just loved it. Our entire friend group everyone was into soccer. And then as I kept going, I went through Addison United, I went to Far Post, and then I finally ended my high school career at Burlington FC, which I had a great time at. And so I kind of ran my time out in the last 2 years of my high school. And then I also played at Middlebury High School with Chris for my two of the years there, my junior and my senior year. And yeah, I mean, those are really my roots in the game, kind of as I was growing up. And so it's always been a part of my my year-round life, every single day. Even while I was playing other sports, it was kind of always soccer. I really just enjoyed playing that much. So yeah. And then as far as after high school, I ended up playing at St. Olaf College for my freshman year, where we ended up winning the NCAA D3 national championship.
Wow.
So,
impressive.
yeah.
All right. So you're going to college. What are you going to college for?
I'm going to college for kinesiology. Mainly, I'm very interested in sports product design, kind of combining my kinesiology background with my graphic design background. So I'm super excited to get into that and hopefully I can start to run that out soon, but I'm still a junior right now. So I'm kind of chasing down leads for the next year and kind of just embracing every moment. So yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard the term kinesiology. Is that what you said?
No. Yeah.
What,
Yeah. Yeah.
what exactly does that mean?
I would say it's mostly right now. My focus is exercise science, but it's really the study of like the body and movement, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Excellent. Thank you.
it's kind of a catch-all, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of a catch-all for
Hmm.
people who want to study bodies, right? So like you could use
Yep.
kinesiology and then potentially do like athletic training, or you could do rehab, or you could just keep studying body stuff like you're talking about with like
Hmm.
athletic design, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is that right or not really?
Yeah. All sorts of things. A lot of people go. Most people go PT, OT, or pre-med, but it really just is any like a segue into all things related to the human body and what like health and well-being, stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. So, what is the Trey Chris connection? Tell me the origin story there.
I got hired to coach Middlebury High School after COVID. So I was coaching at a JUCO in uh not Lake Placid, the other lake in New York, Lake George, SUNY
Okay.
Adirondack. Takes me a second sometimes. I was coaching there, and then when COVID happened, like I was there through COVID, and I kind of just did a reset. And the job in Middlebury, actually, the longtime girls coach retired, and I called the athletic director and said I'd like to coach the girls team, and he said actually Reeves, was the boys coach, would like to coach the girls. Do you want to coach the boys? And so I said yes, of course, because that's fun. And they had really good years before that. Reeves did a really great job with them. And Trey, you were a junior. You'd been on the varsity as a sophomore. You were a junior my first year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so we did an okay season that year. And then your senior season, we really had a real good season. Lost in the semifinals, set a bunch of what we believe to be school records for like goal scoring, uh, all the school all-time leading scorer at the time, which got broken the next year. But that guy was on the team, and also Trey was a really, really big part of all the success that we had for over those 2 years. And I think I'd have to double check, but I think you were actually the second leading scorer your senior year. I think
I
that's
think
true.
so.
I think
As
so
a
too.
as a right back.
Yeah, he played right back,
Yeah.
and we tried him in the middle because we're like, he's good. We got to get him. We got to get him on the ball more. But then we're like, nah, you know what? If we put him at right back, like that's a thing we don't have to think about anymore. And when I tell you this, that team was really good. Trey's class was really strong. The guy that was the left back was pretty good, but Trey was the guy that was on the right, and like he could cover corner to corner. Like the teams did not attack down that side, and also Trey got forward kind of whenever he wanted. So it was like when you have a guy that's that good at a thing, you
Sure.
let him rip.
Yeah. Yeah. Trey, what's your what's your perspective on that? I'm going to ask the question, was Chris a good coach?
Chris was a great coach, in my opinion. I mean, when I think of like back to my high school experience, I'm always thinking about like how I can like I was comparing my college experience to my high school experience, and I thought about like that is the type of team that I want to be on, if I'm to continue to play. Because there, like Chris said, he just let me rip, just down the sideline whenever I wanted. But it's like having that level of freedom, and ability to develop and really like explore the way that you want to. Like play the game, but also kind of have like that all the support was like super needed in my like development. And I think also like there's the biggest thing for me as a coach was also the like connection with the other players too. I think that like I've never had another team that has been so connected as like a group of just guys, like just a group of guys, like even with like everyone having a lot of differences in their backgrounds, I would just say that like everyone kind of came together in a really different way, and that's kind of like always what I've kind of been looking for again. And I think that's like a lot is of that is attributed to Chris, and even if he might deny that, but I think it really is, and I think that like I really appreciated like the process of getting together every day. I think we were very process oriented, and we got together and we collaborated on what we all wanted to get out of our experience together, and that allowed us to like get on a different page. And it's just something that um, that I haven't been able to experience honestly anywhere else. And so I really firmly believe in like in that is the way to kind of run things, especially when it comes to like playing the game, you know. And I think that like when I was thinking back to my high school experience, that's why Chris was like the first person that I called, you know. That was like, we need to get this done. You know, this is the exact type of person and the exact type of like, I don't know, ownership that we need to have is someone that really shares that mentality, and that thought process. So I think that's just, I really appreciate like Chris's coaching. So yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to deny that. I really, and this goes with all my teams. I work really hard to try to create what I consider like a safe psychological space, so everybody can just come in and kind of be as they are, as
Yeah.
long as they agree on the things that we just agree we're going to agree on, right? Yeah, you got to show up and work hard and all that stuff. I don't mean that basic stuff, but like what kind of space do we want it to be? And then if we just filter decisions through, like, is like, are we holding whatever the things that we decide are the things that we're going to agree on? If we just filter all our decisions through that, then like the process becomes easy. And I don't know if you remember like our pre and post game team meetings where I'd have some video and I'd be like, okay, this is part of the process was you play a game, we have video, we sit down the very next day and we have like a little session before our training session. Like, and we were also previewing the next team. So it's like, okay, I think this is what the game plan is based on looking at them and knowing what we know. And then being genuinely earnest and saying, I think this is the right way to do it. What do you guys think? Because you got to go do it. And then being able to have real conversations. And 99% of the time, the guys are like, yeah, sure, great. But then there's that 1% of the time when somebody says, I don't know about that. Like, what about this instead? Because if it doesn't work, we always go change it, right? And creating a space for them, all the players and the coaching staff to really have ownership over the entire process. Like, that's really important to me. And my question, I guess, is that something that you've seen translated into our work together now as professional people on this project together or not? Like, and I'm really genuinely asking that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I was thinking about before we got on here is just like how I do actually see that. I think like just because you have a different role in like general manager, I would say that like we're kind of building in all those qualities into the structure of Vermont Clover rather than just doing it from like a hands-on like coaching perspective. I feel like we've been like especially been able to kind of like create that support and connection, even just from like the framework that we're using to build this team. And I think that's like a different perspective on how some other teams are approaching like like a UPSL team and a lot of people are focused on the outcomes. And I think that we're also continuously like focused on the process. Just from I think we all understand that, and we're able to kind of move forward just as a like as management. And I think that that's really unique, honestly. And I couldn't be happier with being able to do that. So yeah.
All right. So yeah, well, let's back up a step because we're tiptoeing around the topic. We'll get there. We'll get there. So you coached Trey in high school, Chris, and then Trey graduates, moves on. You have presumably a ton of players on your team. What kind of kept the conversation going after, Trey moves on?
I remember, so generally after guys aren't I try to be in contact a lot with guys in my immediate orbit. It's a little bit different with college and high school, right? You can just have more touch points with college guys because they're a little more open to it, and it's a little weird to just be texting high school kids all the time, right? It
Fair,
just is.
fair.
And so especially with the post high school years, again, I try to create that space so like they can always get in touch with me if they want to. And I'm going to be in touch about things that I think are maybe important. And I don't know if you remember this, but I was playing pickup with your dad it was during the NCAA tournament, maybe right before it started, or maybe right when you guys were going to the Final Four. I don't remember. And I was asking him about, how you're doing or whatever. And I sent you a message because I was just like, oh, this is really cool, to just send you a message about all that. And, so not a whole lot. And then last summer it must have been in July. You just kind of called me out of the blue or texted me out of the blue. And I was like, well, this is really nice. and then I mean I want to hear like what was going on for you when you called that, but this is really nice, you know. And so you
Yeah.
texted her. I don't know if you texted me or called me, but I'm 99% sure we
It was a call. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
which I
I
appreciate
Okay.
because
think
nobody calls me. I'm a texter, so nobody calls
So
me.
so so let's label it what this is, because I want the listeners to make sure we know exactly what is about to be told here. This is the origin story, the original origin story of Vermont Clover. So Trey, where did the idea come from? And it sounds like it's a pretty obvious choice based on your experience with Chris, why you reached out to him to explore this idea some more.
yeah. I mean, um, this was really just. I mean, this was a year after I had actually left the team, and I was playing soccer on the Middlebury College turf with one of my buddies, Ollie Anderson, who was actually another player we played with on the high school team, and we were just kicking around, and like I had recently been just like I'd found the passion for the game again. I really started to enjoy it and love it a lot. Where I was definitely a little bit burnt out before, but I was like, as I was on the turf, I was just like, man, like I've been like there's so many UPSL teams that outside of Vermont, and it's like I really would like to see that happen. And there's a huge momentum with soccer in Vermont. I mean, now we're absolutely a soccer state, and so I was just like, man, we like it would be amazing to have that opportunity here, and to be able to reconnect with soccer because it's the almost the biggest part of my life up until maybe like the end of that year before, and I was really looking for a way back into that. And I was just chatting up with Ollie Anderson, and we're like, hey, like what's going on? Like what if we were to start a UPSL team? And he thought it was a great idea, and so I was super excited. Honestly, I was like kind of jittery from excitement
I
because I
love
was
it.
like, man, I think this is like a great idea.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, who do I know that I could just make this happen? And I was like, I've been reflecting on my time and my experiences. So I was just like, yeah, like Chris is the guy. So I gave Chris a call, and it kind of just it blossomed from there because he was just like, yeah, man, like let's do it. Like I've been he'd been thinking about it. I think he could talk about this a little bit more, but it kind of was a thing that was in the works before COVID. I think some people had thought about bringing a UPSL team to Vermont, but it kind of really fell through once COVID happened,
Sure.
and it kind of just didn't come back. But then it was like, man, like we really need this because this is kind of the norm almost for a lot of like back when I was looking at what my summer plans were, deciding whether I wanted to stick with the team or not. A lot of the guys were just going home for summer and playing UPSL, and I was like, or MPSL or USL too, and I was like, man, like it's a little hard to get access to that in Vermont, particularly because you have to travel to maybe all the way down to Boston or like, and I had a few like friends back from club who actually ended up doing that, but it just does not seem attainable. And so it was like, we need to make this happen. It was just, it felt like a need rather than, oh, I want this to happen. This is like like truly a need for the Vermont community, especially from my perspective, because that's kind of the level where I would be suited to play at. And maybe
Mhm.
one day I will be playing, but it's just super exciting to be able to actually just bring that all together because it just was so natural, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Chris,
so
what was your perspective on this, right? Like when Trey calls you and says, "Hey, I want to do this thing," like what was your initial reaction?
I was like, I need to do a little research because I had done a little bit, and I was like, I think this is a thing we both could and should do. And I was
Yeah.
like, give me a week to do the research I need to do, or 10 days or whatever, and like come over to the house and we'll sit on the deck and we'll like have a real conversation about what the options are and if we can actually do it in a successful way. Because what I didn't want to do is just get a thing going and then it dies, right? Like I didn't want
Sure.
to put
Yeah.
all the time and energy into it. And Trey alluded to this right when COVID happened. I had been working with a couple other club directors, Shane, who you know, and then another club director that we work pretty closely with about doing something similar. It wasn't specifically a UPSL team, but it was like, what if we just got all the best Vermont players together and, you know, do that, boys, girls, whatever. And
Mhm.
then COVID. And so it was like when there was nothing going on in COVID, like March, April, May, when like nobody knew what the heck was going on. And then we got the green light to go outside and start playing again. and we had to reopen the clubs. So like that took a lot of work. There's a certain momentum that goes on when you get a club going and you're on a schedule and it's going, and then you got to stop everything. And then all the momentum grinds to a halt. Nobody knows what's going on. So it takes a lot of momentum to get it back up and going again. Right. It's like a thing with like a flywheel or water wheel, whatever. And then when we talked about it again later that summer, one of them was like, hey, there's actually a group talking to UVM about using Virtue. And then we kind of shrugged our shoulders like, all right, sounds like it's sorted out then, kind of. Right. And that was the group that's Vermont Green. So,
Yeah.
the idea existed. So I knew that it was viable. I knew people would come watch. And then in between that phone call and when we hung out on my deck, I did some research, and there were a couple of options with kind of different accessibility price tags, if that makes any sense. Right? Like to join the UPSL costs a certain amount of money, you got to have a certain kind of standard. To join NPSL, it costs a certain amount of money, you got to have a certain kind of standard. So I just went through it and kind of presented Trey with like the options, like these are the things we can do. What do you think? And the timeframes that we could probably do it on. And he was like, this seems like the best option, being UPSL. It's like, all right, let's go. And then I went to Costa Rica with my team and Trey went to Minnesota. And then we promptly kind of forgot about it for a couple of months while we were like in the middle of just doing our own stuff, really. Like, and then we did a little backgrounding, both of us, but my plan always was to pick it back up at the beginning of November when like the league had to be re-entered and I was not so focused on my college season, when his semester was kind of like, there's a certain lull right before finals where everything kind of lightens up just a little bit, to kind of revisit it then. And then my season, we had a little better results than we had anticipated. And we ended up being, we're still playing until the weekend before Thanksgiving. So like now it's December. And it was like, are we going to, and then it was really like, I don't know if you remember this phone call. It was like, are we really going to do this? Because if we're going to do this, we need to like do it. And then the AI logo. And then I sent it when I registered with the league. I sent him this logo, this like cheesy AI logo that we'd been fooling around with like as a placeholder, and then said to him, don't release this thing yet. Like, just don't do it. We have a new one that's coming. It's just not done yet. And then here we are.
So, but before we go further down the path, I just want to kind of fill in some of the blanks here for anybody listening that's not, fully soccer aware, because I think this is important to kind of explain too, right? Like, what is the UPSL? And I know there's high school soccer, there's NCAA, there's various divisions of college soccer, there's, men's and women's leagues, like there's USL2. Obviously, we have, Vermont Green in town. So where does the UPSL fit in there, and why is that the gap?
Yeah. So I'll take the first part, and then maybe you can take the gap part, Trey. But the deal is that there's a pyramid everywhere, right? And so college, it exists completely separately, and high school exists completely separately. These are like their own bubbles. And youth soccer is kind of integrated into the pyramid, but not in a really explicit way. It kind of is its separate thing, whatever. So when you get up into the pyramid, the tier 1 is MLS, and then tier 2 is the top level USL teams, and there's another league too. And then as you go down, there's more. And then tier 4 is USL2. They call it pre-professional or semi-professional, whatever. And tier 4 is USL2, UPSL, NPSL, and then there's another league called APSL that all kind of, it's mostly amateur, but not strictly amateur, if that makes any sense. And so it really fills a certain, the gap is that it's like from college, which is completely separate, right, into actually playing fully professional. Like tier 4 is the gap between not in the pyramid and tier 3, which is we're getting paid in a mostly full-time way, even if the wages aren't good.
Okay. And to be considered a player in UPSL, I mean, it's obvious, right? If you're going to play college ball, you have to be a college student. You have to be affiliated with a college. UPSL, do you have to have any sort of college affiliation? Do you have to have any sort of club affiliation? So you can just be somebody that lives locally, plays soccer, and can try out.
Yeah, basically, there's no kind of restrictions on any of that. You just, if you're good enough, you can get on a team. That's it. And that's kind of how, just generally the pyramid works everywhere. If you're good enough to play on an MLS team and you can find a way in, you can be in the MLS. There's no
Okay.
prerequisite requirements. And then, so why did Trey, do you remember why we chose the UPSL?
I mean, low cost was one of them. Is
Was
turnaround time and low cost. I mean, also the level is like very similar across some of these like various cost barriers. Like we can find a very similar level of play, especially with potentially promotion as well. And so that's kind of we saw that as the easiest pathway into just getting guys the time that they needed like as soon as possible, and just filling that gap like immediately. So yeah,
So for some additional context, you guys were really putting the wheels into motion like November, December of 2025, and here we are, spring of 2026, and things are in full swing, right? Like, we're seeing 400 plus people attendees at these games. We're doing really well this season. So that's a lot to do in a very short amount of time, and to take this from like idea to fully moving thing in less than a year, right? Because you said you called Chris last year July, and here we are, the spring of 2026. So kudos to you guys. That's a lot to do in a very short amount of time, on top of all of your other workloads, work, school, everything else. What were some of the challenges you guys faced, trying to get this thing going?
um the challenge, I mean, everything, right? It is to try to do what we're doing in the time frame that we have chosen to do it in is a completely insane thing. Like just
yeah,
patently insane. So we had and I am speaking for Trey here too, but we had an idea of like how we wanted the look and feel to be, right? And real shout out to Trey. I say this all the time to everybody, and probably not to you, but you have really great taste when it comes to design stuff and how you want to present things. And you have really great taste, and it's one of the reasons that we have such a cool presence from a how it looks perspective. Like our Shield logo, like that was Trey. It looks awesome. Like the pink forward thing, like that was Trey too. Like that's awesome, right? And so the challenge is, I mean, what do they talk about in project management, right? You can go fast, you can go cheap, or you can go with quality, right? But like you
Yeah,
can always you can always do one out of the three. That's easy. You can usually do
right.
two out of the three, but it's really hard to go three out of the three, right? So I
Yeah,
think the biggest challenge has been for us deciding, like there's a lot of good ideas that have been thrown around, right? But it's for us deciding what can we execute on given our incredibly limited budget and our incredibly limited time frame. Like what is the thing we can do right now to have the absolute most impact on the next thing, right? Like the
yeah.
next game or the next practice or whatever. And we're about to change. Time frame's funny because right about now is when all the college guys are in, or almost all the college guys are in. So we have to change a little bit how training is so that the UPSL team is served properly and we're playing at the appropriate level to go win that. And also because the Elite 11 League, which is the highest level adult amateur league here, we're going to put a team in that of guys who are training with us so that like they can get meaningful game minutes, even if the level is not quite as high, right? So
Mhm.
how it works when you're running two teams versus when you're running just one team is a little bit different.
Sure.
So we're kind of like actively making those changes right now because, and like everything I filter through is this going to impact the player experience in a positive way? Like if I do this, is that going to make a better experience for everybody, right? And we work
Mhm.
really closely with the coaching staff on that stuff too. But I think that that's the biggest challenge is keeping what's important to keep in perspective in the right perspective, because it's too easy to to chase your tail around or to go down this other rabbit hole and spend a whole lot of time chasing after a thing that's going to end up with a 1% gain when you could have spent half the amount of time doing something for a 2.5% gain. Right.
Right.
And
Okay.
what's your challenge, Trey? Your biggest challenge?
I would say time management with school. That's the hardest part. Um, that's just like a whole new curveball. It's interesting because I would say there are times where Vermont Clover is just my number one priority, and it's as simple as that. But I also have some very perfectionist tendencies, and with school and Clover, so it gets to be an interesting, funky balance with everything and how late I stay up. So, and then I think a big part of like a curveball that was thrown at me in like this whole process is what I had like surgery, and that kind of
Oh,
threw me off my game. Like it was definitely like a kind of got a little checked out. And because I was in bed for like 2 weeks straight, non-weight bearing, but I should have been working, but I think it was definitely like more of a mental challenge
yeah.
with both work and Clover, you know. And so it was definitely like funky to like get back on um and start working again. And that was, but yeah, I would say like that was also a very large like challenge for kind of like putting this whole thing together. But definitely something that I learned from, and it made me like know where my priorities are, and how to approach moving forward though. So yeah.
Awesome. I think now is probably the most appropriate time to ask this question. Where did the name Vermont Clover come from? I know that the clover is like the Vermont state flower, so there's the obvious answer. But there's a lot of like cool Vermont state things. Not saying that the clover isn't like, but how did you arrive to the clover?
I mean, I would say, we had a truly long brainstorming process. We ended up on Chris's deck quite a bit for this one, but we just kept going through like the name, like just going through names, and Clover just really sounded right for
Yeah.
one. Like it just sounded sweet. One thing for me is that I've always been wearing pink. Pink is sweet in my opinion. Like back until one thing that got me. Actually, I think it was part of what got me into St. Olaf College was that I was talking about my how I'm always wearing pink, and they remember me for that in the admissions office, and so it just really it really did stick, and so I thought it just felt right, and we also got a lot of support from some of our friends or people who were bouncing these ideas off of. And so that really helped like make it feel like this is the one, you know. So
Is there any kind of like story behind that, or was it purely just colors, right? Like, is there like a teen culture ideas in the clover?
Yeah, there's
I mean,
yeah, I mean clover's ubiquitous, man. I mean, yeah, it's a state flower, right? But it's everywhere. And the story that goes with that, I mean, it's in your yard. It's like the
Yeah.
cows eat it. Like it was planted here. It's not native to here. It's just planted here. Which,
Oh, I didn't
so
know that.
yeah. So the whole story,
Okay.
like they're, we talk about like native Vermonters, but like none of us are really like truly native Vermonters. And so it came here and it established roots, and now it's everywhere. And
Yeah.
I think that it like kind of tells the story of like the Vermont soccer player. There's a ton of good soccer players in Vermont. There really are. Like we don't appreciate how many good soccer players there are in Vermont, and they're kind of everywhere. In every field, you can find some kid kicking a ball, right? And it's the state flower, and nobody's really like from here, because nobody's really
Yeah.
from where they are, and people just don't realize. I think people just don't realize that, and it also is like super nourishing and enriching to the environment. If you look on our website, there's like a little page that I wanted to include called the Mighty Clover, and it's like the hokiest thing in the entire world. It's some stuff from a study about clover, but it's nitrogen fixing. So it really improves the quality of your field if you throw it in there. So it makes everything
Mhm.
better, right? And it's kind of just makes everything better, and it's everywhere, and it's the state flower. So it just makes sense, like having all these guys playing and in Vermont, good players. It just makes the entire Vermont culture just a little bit better when we can kind of
Yeah.
put our little Vermont flowers out there in a good way.
Yeah.
I
I,
initially
I
wanted to
love
call it,
that.
yeah, and we kind of concepted like the look too, because I wanted to call it something different. And like we had this cross muskets thing, which is cool, but like it didn't speak in the way that it needed to speak, right?
Yeah. I love what you just said there. Clover is in every field, and in every field you can find a kid kicking a ball. Like that's really cool. I want to hear the names that didn't stick around. Like, what were the ones that you guys were like spitballing around that were just like, no, 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 no.
Well, I'm bad at names, but I was all in on the Champlain Rangers because I thought it rolled off the tongue. And then you get cross muskets. Maybe you throw a little boonie hat on there. You know,
Sure, sure.
that was one that didn't
yeah,
stick. I can't think of some of the other ones. It was like I don't even remember.
I think that was the closest one we got, and then we flipped 180. We were
Uh-huh.
not feeling it. Yeah.
We were not feeling it. It was like it's like okay, we could do that. It's like, but we weren't in love with it. And then it was a very late, like a random late night text. What about Clover?
Yeah.
what about Clover? From Trey, because Trey's good at names and I'm not. And I was like, yes. Like, and that was it. And then it was just like in the way, and you experience this as a parent, when you're trying to figure out the name for your kid and you're
Yeah.
like, what about Johnny? And what about Jimmy? And what about Mark or whatever? And then you and
Yeah,
your
yeah.
wife are like, what about Timothy? And you're like, yep, that's the one. Just like that.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
The lightning
Yeah.
bolt. That's how it was with Clover. And then from there, the story kind of told itself like, oh, why Clover? Well, because it's the state flower and because it's everywhere and because it's good for the soil health and because like dot, 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 dot.
Yeah.
And we can tell all those same, like the parallels. I mean, it is literally exactly what we want to be is ubiquitous.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I mean, the state flower was the most obvious thing, but you go through all of those other things like the soil enriching and everything else, and it's just like, well, yeah, that is the right name, and it is the right name. I love it. It's a great name. It's great. I love the color schemes, and it just the more I hear about it, it just makes a lot more sense.
The other thing I like about it is that it's an actual tangible thing. Like I can pick up
Yeah.
a clover and give it to you. It's not some high-minded idea. It's not,
Right.
I'm not throwing shade at anybody else's names here, but it's not some high-minded idea. It is a thing I can
Right.
pick up and give you and show you. Like it is a
Right.
tangible reflection of my love for Vermont, picking a clover, or like how many kids has been digging around in a field to try to find a 4-leaf.
Yeah.
Get lucky.
Yeah. Um, Trey, how excited are you to get back to Vermont and see this thing in the flesh? Because
Oh man.
throughout this entire process, you're in Minnesota. You're not here. You haven't, and I'm not trying to make you jealous, but you haven't been to the games. You haven't been to the practices. You haven't really seen this thing on the ground yet. And you're the guy that came up with all of this. Like, how excited are you to get back here and see all of what's happening?
Oh man. I really can't wait. Like I'm actually so excited. I mean, it's been honestly surreal even from here, to just witness the progress, even just if it's from like a little screen on the NSN live stream. But I like there's nothing else more that I want, you know. And what a little sad about is that I'm leaving this summer about early July, so I only get a little bit of time to really get to know the team and see what's been done. But I'm like this is truly surreal to be able to get to come back. Um, and so I think my main goal is just to spend as much time like around Clover itself as possible, even if that means maybe a little less work. Uh, Making some money, I guess. But yeah, I think that that's kind of my main priority is just like to get to like be a part of the practices, to get to be a part of like the game day operations itself. Like that's like the most rewarding thing and meaningful thing in my life right now, I would say.
Yeah,
So yeah,
understandably so.
yeah,
After the Boston Street game, I was like, dude, you're going to be blown away when you show up.
yeah,
Like, you're just going to be blown away at what's going on here. Cause I show up, I'm like doing it every day and I'm blown away sometimes. Like the game this weekend, I was blown away with like the 3 tents or there's going to be another one at the next one. It's just like blown away at how people kind of come out of the woodwork to want to be a part of the thing. And not just as
Yeah.
fans, but like to contribute, like you, AJ, like in the beginning, we're like, yeah, sure, come take pictures, but like blown away, like how meaningful an experience this has been for you. It's how I know we've created something worthwhile and special is it's speaking to people. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It really is.
I want to ask Trey about how, like, if it's like, what are the differences and similarities, like playing a couple years of soccer for me and now like working together as people who co-own a business.
so it's a very big question, I would say. But playing for you, it was like very enjoyable, honestly. That is like the first thing that pops into my mind. I really like going back to kind of what we touched on before, like just being process oriented, and talking about like every once in a while we just check in, like this is what we're doing this for, and I think like also going back to like mental environment. I think that like the stress of playing really just isn't there. Like it's a pure enjoyment, I would say, from a getting better perspective, and that's truly like the most valuable thing. And like I honestly think that like there's there's no other way to do kind of like that that development process. But as far as working with you, I would say that things are just as enjoyable. That's my first thought. But I think it's interesting to see like how we can work together in sort of a almost as equals in a different way. I think that's a very interesting way, like change for me, and breaking of kind of like my perception of our relationship. I would absolutely say that like I loved being able to have like a coach who's super easy to talk to. But it's even better having like a business partner that's super fun to be around and is like also wants me like the same as you want me to be like the best player that I could be. It's the same as like doing the same in business, and I would say that it's also super helpful because you know a little bit. I think soccer also, this might be a little cliche, but like you can definitely tell like how a person is based off of like how they are on a team, and I think you can definitely get a really good representation and understanding of what I'm like as also someone to work with. And I think you can kind of pull kind of like what you see out of me from the game and into like business in like in the best way possible. And I think that some of that, especially like might be like the perfectionism. I think that you really help balance me out, I would say. And but both ways, I think that like having that understanding of both like a coach and a player and as equals is like is truly different. I would say it really enables us to manage things differently, as if we were just to come here like business owners in the first place. Because I'm trying to emulate what I experienced as a player for all these other players that haven't gotten to experience your coaching before, and you're trying to kind of bring in your coaching philosophy into management of the business itself. So I think that like that's kind of where I see the parallels. But we kind of have this like two-part like approach to making this thing happen.
Yeah. Did you find
So yeah.
so like when there's a coach and player thing, like there's an explicit power dynamic there, right? Like that
Mhm.
was like we're
Yeah.
taught that from when we're tiny little kids that there's an explicit power dynamic. Have you felt that at all, or like, or do you really feel treated as an equal and that there isn't like how did you approach the changing power dynamic, I guess is the real question.
I would just say being open-minded was one of the biggest things, and like it was definitely different because like I've had this time where I went to college and I had this like experience to kind of go past just our team, and so like things just definitely didn't feel like the same power dynamic, I would say, but it was also that I still see you as a like a mentor and someone that I look up to, and so I kind of take that perspective with business itself. I would say is that like there's someone that I still look up to, and I see that I'm still able to learn from you, and in many different ways. So it's not just like we have this static kind of that like relationship where I just see you as the other business owner, you know. And I think that like I'm trying to learn every day and kind of like um, carry forward some of those ideas that like where you might see that I can improve, you know. And so I think that like I do carry forward like, oh, I'm like trying to be better, as sort of similarly in that dynamic, like being a better player for the team. I mean, I'm still part of a team, and so I would say that, like the dynamic is definitely just a little shifted, but there's still like so much about it that it's still there and in little ways here and there. Just because we've also just had lots of different life experiences, and I'm still got a lot to learn. You know.
Have
Yeah, I do.
have either one of you owned a business before? Before
Yeah.
walking this? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my little soccer club Monarch, and I do like a little t-shirt hustle on the side that I make shirts for people. So yeah. And I also I've run a business actually too. So, I've got some experience in all that, but I kind of
Nice.
imagine
Okay.
it's your first time, right, Trey?
This is my first time, unless we're counting maybe like a business class. It's just one
fake,
simulation.
fake businesses.
Um,
I think
Fake
that,
businesses. Yep.
I think the challenge, right, is that when you're a coach, you really you really try to get to learn about the people that are playing for you. I do anyway. I want to know what makes them tick, because if I know what makes a person tick and I know their character, I can help them be whatever they define the best version of themselves is, right? And then when in this dynamic, you get to see, and we all wear masks every day, right? Father, that's a mask. Son, that's a different mask. Friend, that's a different mask. Coach, that's a mask. Player, that's a mask. They're all different masks. It's not. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It just is the way that it is. And so you get to see behind the mask a little bit of Chris as like more full person, because when you play for a person, you see a kind of very specific, kind of narrow bit of who they are.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the way that like the player, you see a much wider range of who they are, not because of they're older or younger, just because the game brings out certain emotions. But as a coach and as a leader, you have to be vulnerable and available and all that stuff.
Right.
But there is a certain amount of like, you have to be the one holding it together. Right. And there's a certain amount of that mask that needs to stay up. Right. Like I tried to, and especially with younger players, like, you know, they aren't the ones that need to ask questions, right? You as a coach are the one that needs to ask questions. Right. And they can or not. I also, this is completely unrelated to what I'm talking about, but it just popped in my mind, is the whole pink thing. We used to do a thing where we would load the guys up on the bus, and my wife's family has some camps over on Lake George, and we'd load everybody up on the bus. We'd go over and we would hike up to the top of this little mountain that's there. And then we talk about what we want to do for the season. And this is a little pinnacle. It's like kind of end of preseason thing, right? A little ritual type thing. And then we go down and we have a little barbecue, and the guys can swim in the lake. It's really cool to ride in the lake. And Trey was wearing these pink little bananas swim shorts. And my wife, Nikki, was always just like, oh, which guy? And she knows all the players, but she like forgets who's who. And then she's like, oh, which guy's Trey? I'm like, the pink bananas. And she's like, oh, I love him. So it's just like, she used to really like watching you play. And that's like, that's like how she remembers you, is the pink, like the banana shorts. Do you still have those things? Those things are awesome.
I do. Yeah. I also have some watermelons too. So funny.
Was it bananas or was it watermelons that you were wearing that day?
There's both. I think it was bananas that day. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've actually got 3 pairs of swim shorts, and they're all pink. So
what's the third one?
I've got stripy pink ones. So just a little bit more formal, you know.
Yeah.
Not just childish, but yeah.
So when you're going to the wedding on the beach, you can wear those stripy ones.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to take your question to Trey and spin it back on you. How has that, coach, athlete, coach, player dynamic shifted for you in this kind of new business relationship with Trey?
I like it because it's different. Because again, I get to experience him as a more full human being, right? College is cool because people, like when you're in high school, like you are what you are. And then in college is really a period of becoming more than many other periods in your life. So it's always really cool. Kind of gives me the warm fuzzies when anybody calls me up that used to play for me and is just like, I'm thinking enough about you to call you, much less maybe we're going to start a business together, or maybe like, you can help me start a business together. So like, okay, that's pretty cool. But I really enjoy seeing the man that he's become. Not that he wasn't a man before, but really seeing all that stuff and seeing how he's balancing all this stuff that he has to balance and really doing a good way. And while you do see more of people when you're coaching them, it's also narrow. It's also kind of narrowly confined to a certain piece of their identity, right? And Trey may primarily identify as a soccer player. I don't know, but like I get to see all the other cool stuff because we don't interact as like coach and player anymore. Now we interact as people that like, okay, I'm running the day-to-day business stuff. Like he's doing all the design stuff. So we get this cool other interaction, which is also has the same fundamental principle. Can we be the absolute best for each other today that we possibly can? Right. So that's like the underlying principle. And it's been really fun to work together. And the things I'm learning are like what great taste he has and what great ideas he has that are not related to the soccer stuff. I'm learning about all the other parts of Trey than just the soccer stuff that I only kind of knew a little bit about. That's real fun for me.
I'm curious. Like I've never been a coach. I've been in plenty of leadership positions, but I think that coach player dynamic probably adds a little bit something different. Have you had to like stop yourself from coaching him throughout any of this process?
No, I don't think so, because I don't I feel like I'm probably coaching everybody all the time, just kind of as a default mode because I've been doing it for so long. But I'm not consciously
Okay,
like, oh,
that's
I have
fair.
to back off the coach thing because I'm not
Okay,
approaching it like my job is to go win this game together. I'm kind of approaching
gotcha.
it like, yo, we need to do this thing now. Can we go do that? Which isn't a whole
Yeah,
lot different than coaching. It's just I'm not providing the roadmap.
sure.
The roadmap is
Okay.
like, all right, we're working on this slide deck, right? I'm like, need this slide deck, right? Okay. Like, well, actually, how that started was I said, I got to send the slide deck to someone. And he looked at one of the old ones. He's like, doesn't really reflect what we got going on right now. I want to make that current. I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then, but nothing's as simple as like, yeah, go for it, because there's always a little bit of like, the process of creative discovery is really fun. This is another thing with Trey too. The process of creative discovery is really fun. And I think we actually work pretty well from a creative discovery perspective. Cause like I'll have this idea and it's whatever. And then he'll come back with something and then I'll have a thing and then he'll have a thing. And then eventually it's like,
Mhm.
oh, we did this and it looks like this. I would like to take this off because I think we can tell the story a little bit better in this way. And then sometimes it's the exact opposite where I like throw all these ideas and he's like, these are good. These need to go away. But I think we can tell the story in the best way by doing it like this. And I think that's been it's been a much more collaborative experience than the coach player thing, because to some degree, as partners in a business, there is no I have to make the final decision like me. But
Mhm.
as a coach, you do. Like as the head coach, you own the final decision on who plays, who doesn't play. So you own the win and the loss. As business partners, we collaborate on that final decision. Now, I'm a pretty collaborative coach, but at the end of the day, success or failure, it cannot be all about me and the decisions that I say this is the way that it has to be. It can't.
All right. As we start to think about winding down the episode, is there anything that we didn't talk about as far as you know, Trey, Chris, Trey and Chris, Clover origin story? Anything in there that we want to squeeze in towards the end?
I don't know. I feel like I've told this story 100 times and like pretty much the same way, right? But it's really cool to be able to like do this together and be on this whole thing together and kind of talk about it together and co-tell the story. I may be kind of the face of the thing a little bit, but it's not my thing. That's a
Yeah,
different, it's just really not my thing. It's kind of everybody's thing. And I want to make sure that people understand that it is absolutely theirs and everybody's thing. Right. And Trey, you know that. But I'm also worried sometimes that people outside looking in don't understand the scope of the impact you've made, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I think part of, maybe you do know this about me, I don't know, but one of the things that I like to do, I talk a lot about like former players and things like that. And it's really important to me to tell the stories, right? And the stories I want to tell, I want to tell the story of how important Trey is in this. I mean, yeah, he's a player, great, whatever. But I want to tell the story of how important he was in all this, which is to say, like, it literally would not be happening. This does not exist without Trey, right?
that's
It
big.
does not exist. And it also doesn't mean that, between he and myself and Brian and Shane that we're like 25, 25, 20, 25 on everything. Certain areas like I own more, certain areas Trey owes more. And the areas that he owns tend to sit behind the curtain a little bit more. So they're kind of less obvious. So for me, I want to make sure I'm telling the story that people understand, like this is how important this guy is to the thing.
Thank you.
Trey, looking at all of what's happened, the success of everything of Clover, the people coming out to the matches and stuff. When Chris says this wouldn't exist without Trey, how does that hit?
I mean, it does make me feel really, really happy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the main thing is that, like, I could not be happier. But I mean, to some extent, like it's still, I'm still waiting to get back
Yeah.
to Vermont to wait to feel kind of like what that truly means to me. But like it does feel great, you know. Um, yeah, yeah, it's hard to describe, I would say, is kind of like the main thing. But yeah, really, really appreciative of everything that's gone on, you know. and to just watch it unfold so quickly. I also don't think that like as someone who like I said, like I haven't owned my first business, like this is like the first time. It's really great to be able to have someone who's like able to like guide you through that too,
Mhm.
and work along like every step of the way, to be able to like see those results happen. Like if you have an idea, it's also about being able to do the thing, and just taking the step to get there. And I think a lot of the time, sometimes I'm a little nervous to, or just like hesitant to take that first step, to do this type of thing. But I think like being able to be supported and have Chris to be able to do this, um, is truly amazing. Because I mean, one of the big things is that like, before starting this, going into college, I told myself I want to do, before I leave college, I need to try it to like make one product or start one business, because that's just how I see myself, and where, like kind of my personality type. And
Mhm.
so like, but like kind of being able to like move past that perfectionism and just start and do the thing and take Chris's advice has been like the biggest thing for, being able to see all this, change and success. And so like if there's one thing that I've learned, it's just like to take that first step and do the thing, um, and not just like think about doing the thing, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. Don't let perfection be the enemy of starting. So, when you think about, idea of Vermont Clover and having that kind of vision for it, and then looking at the reality of today, like where does today fit into the scope? Is this far below what you thought it would be? Far above? Are we right on target? What's the vision compared to reality?
I mean, I would say this is far above where I thought we would be at this very moment in time. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew that, I mean, one thing that is like crucial to mention is just how big the soccer community is here.
Yeah.
And so like we knew that like people want this thing to happen, you know? But I could never imagine that it would just take off like this,
Right.
in this little amount of time. And also, I think one of the biggest things to mention is that like, sometimes I didn't think it, like I just saw this as like, oh, we're gonna start this year. But like we have so many ideas as far as like expansion of just like what Clover looks like in the future. Like we're not just thinking about right now. And I think that's like really, that surprised me, honestly. Sometimes I was like, man, like I sometimes my head was in that place. But being able to have, people who are thinking about moving forward, or even like the next couple of years, who have kind of done that with like teams, like I mean Chris has done that with Monarch. Being able to see that long-term goal has been, really crazy to me. Because I mean, um, it feels, even though like we have all this success, we've also got a long ways to go. But like it just gets me super excited, because there's honestly so much more potential, for what we can do than even what we're already seeing. So, and that's honestly the biggest thing to me, is that we're going to continue to learn and continue to like change and adapt, and try to grow. And that's like the I don't know, I'm super proud of that, honestly.
Chris, I want to ask you the same question, from initial conversations with Trey to today. What has it exceeded the expectations? Where are we?
Well, I was pretty sure we could put a team on the field. I was pretty sure we could do that. And I was pretty sure that like maybe like their parents and girlfriends would come watch. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So the fact that if someone had told me 4 of the 5 home games in, we'd be playing in front of, we would have had like the beer truck and the food truck and all that stuff going. And there would be, we'd be selling pink sweatshirts to people who love them. And we
Yeah.
would be having 3, 4, I think there's more than 400 people last week that we would be
Yeah.
having that. And that people are like, that I'm getting random Instagram messages from these organizations that are like, we're reporting about lower league soccer. We want to do a little Q&A with you. Like it is where we're at right now versus my expectations is like, it's the comparison of distance between the moon and Saturn, man. It's like
Yeah.
unbelievable what we've built so far. And but like Trey says, is like we just want to keep getting a little better and a little better and a little better. Like we want to create a better game day experience. We want to create a better experience for the players. And you know, we did this whole thing on a wing and a prayer, man. And you know, to be able to go out and maybe get some sponsors and to do some other stuff that like ultimately makes the club a little bit more sustainable. Like that's kind of the biggest place we need to go. And we're working on it. You know, it just hasn't happened yet. And our thought was, you know, if we just did this thing, people would see what the value is, and then they would come on board. And I think that that's starting to happen. And I'm just like, I was having a conversation with Posey in the car the other day. It's just like, I'm building this for you guys, meaning like Posey and Luna, so that, you know, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years down the road, there's this club that they can look at and be like, yeah, my dad helped build that. And it's ours now. And it's not just for us as adults now. It's like for everybody in Vermont. Like it really is.
Yeah.
I want it to be a club for everybody, man.
I gotta tell you, there's something really special going on here, right? Like I came into this thing certainly not in the beginning, and I think it was like January, February. Chris, you and I talked, and just having been kind of like embedded with the team throughout this process, like I've become addicted. It's so much fun to be around. It's been so much fun to watch the growth, the success, just the camaraderie on the team is unlike anything else I've ever seen. Like we've played other teams and it's like, hey, what's your name again? What's your number? Which position do you play? And it's just like, man, we show up, everybody knows our place, everybody knows what we're doing, everyone knows why we're here. It's just really unique. And it's not an experience that I've kind of had, you know, in this arena, right? And so you know, kudos to you guys. You've built something very successful in a very short amount of time. And I think a lot of people are really excited about what's going on here. And man, I'm excited for the future. Is there anything that, you know, we want to kind of drop about like what are we working on? The skunk works, like what's going on in the way background, knowing that it's spring of 2026 right now, and by the time we release this podcast, like some of these things might be real, or maybe they're still ideas.
The women's team, like the women's team is going to be real. Yeah. So we always knew that so let me just take one step back. For as few opportunities as there are for Vermont men to play at the level that exists, there are that many fewer opportunities for Vermont women, not just Vermont women, but women overall. Like the state of opportunity for women in the game is it's horrendous. It's just horrendous. There's so few spots for so many talented women. So if we could, and our first goal is like, let's chip away at it. We always knew we wanted to launch a women's team. Right. Yeah. And so it's not about whether we're going to do it. It's about the timing. And so learning what we learned about the roster, which, you know, you kind of been through, right? Like seeing how the beginning of that went to with the women's team. So it's like, okay, can we consciously build a training group that can then become the core for the team that's going to play next year? That was like the first thing. And then, so there's a coach that we work pretty closely with at Castleton. His name's Chris Chapdelaine. Everybody calls him Chappie. He's the GM of the Vermont Wild down in Manchester, and John O'Connor is the coach of that team. So the connection there is just John, OC, you call him. Michael, his son, is captain, you know, a bunch of the games. So that's right. And he comes to all our games too. Yeah. And so when I was like, Chap, we're looking for players for a training group, he sent me a list. And then the next day he called me and he's like, you guys want to come down and play on July 3rd against the Wild? And I was like, well, that's insane. Of course we do. You know, I'm a yes person in a world that says no or maybe. And it's like when everything's about the time, right? When opportunity shows up and knocks, like, am I going to tell it to go away? No, I'm going to open the door. So we're doing that. We're actively in process of like getting a coaching staff and building a training schedule. And we've been in touch with a bunch of women and they seem really excited about it. So we're doing that, that's awesome. It's another completely insane thing. We're just doing it. And we know it's going to work out. I mean, I don't know. What about you, Trey? What do you, besides that, or maybe that, like, what do you got in the hopper?
I mean, that's about it. I mean, unless there's anything else. No? What do you think?
I mean,
are we able?
What about, no, we can't talk about that. Can't talk about that.
Dang it. No, okay. There's other things in the background that we can't talk about that we can cut out. But yeah, no, I mean the that's about it. I mean, the women's team is super exciting. I mean, I would never imagine that we would have an exhibition game this year for the women's team. When I was like, we were taking off with this, um, like when we were first talking about it, Chris is just like, yeah, we're gonna have a women's team, as soon as possible. And I was like, wow, that is super ambitious as far as just like the turnaround, especially with what we've been doing so far. And so it's super exciting, honestly, because I
Yeah.
was like, um, it's just such a great opportunity, and also just like, uh, I don't know, so much bigger than I honestly, going back to that other conversation, like so much bigger than what I had thought we would have in store, for what this club would mean,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the other thing we can't talk about, if and when this happens, it'll be truly paradigm shifting, which is really cool. It's just not in a place where we can talk about it in a public way yet.
Ooh, I love it.
I know, right? I'm just teasing things. And the people who
I
are going
got-
to listen to this, the people who know are going to know. And then the people
Yeah.
who don't know are going to not know. But it's going to be massively. The other thing that's really big and exciting, I think, is the whole Sporting Vermont thing that VSA is
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's what I was gonna say. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to talk
Oh,
about
you can
that.
talk about that. It's the other
Oh.
thing we can't talk about.
Oh yeah, okay. Should we talk about that? Should we talk about Sporting Vermont a little bit?
We can a little. I mean, it's happening next year. It's happening next year. The short version is it's happening next year. VSA killed the ODP program, and instead they're doing the Sporting Vermont thing, which is free to kids. And the clubs are going to get together and, coaches and whatever, and identify the groups, like the groups, and it's going to be all the best players. So
Yeah.
we're going to function kind of as the top end of that experience. And we're going to help run their U20 group, which they want an adult experience for. So it won't be
Okay.
explicitly our second team, but it'll kind of function as our second team, younger team. And we'll have some senior guys playing in it to kind of mentor some of those younger guys. And then, so it is our model, only it's going to start at 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Holy
big.
cow.
That's a big paradigm shift. And nationally, it's pretty radical nationally in the youth soccer space to be able to be like, let's get all the best players from a state together for free and just ask them to buy a uniform when they make the pool.
So I just want to ask a clarifying question. Are we talking about a U12 Clover team?
No.
Okay.
I'll be Sporting Vermont. So like Sporting Vermont U12, Sporting Vermont U13, Sporting Vermont U14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and because it's all the best players, it opens up some access paths that the clubs in Vermont don't currently have. From being able to play at the next level, go to bigger colleges, be in front of coaches that are going to kind of open gateways to the next level. It's kind of what Sporting Vermont's going to do.
But Clover is at the top of this pyramid, and so there's going to be a lot of involvement from the team, mentorship opportunities, probably some coaching opportunities for folks that want to take that route.
Yep.
And then ultimately, it sounds like a feeder opportunities to feed the Clover teams, right? Whether it's the men's or the women's.
Yeah, it's all our players anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it's not completely homogenous between like, okay, if you were the best player at U12 or U13 or U14 and you end up in Clover, like it doesn't work exactly like that, but a certain large percentage will kind of carry up through because they'll be playing at college and that whole thing. That's exciting. Yeah. The Sporting Vermont thing's really exciting. They announced it.
Yeah.
You don't get the emails, Trey, but he announced it last week, even 2 weeks ago. And then he sent a schedule last week about when it's going to happen. But it's kind of like, it's not Clover, but we are the top end of that. That's the kind of part of our partnership with VSA. And VSA has been a really massive partner for us as far as allowing us to do things. And maybe we should talk about their sponsorship because it's been really important in a couple of ways. It gets us opportunities to get out in front of the community at things like the State Cup, and we'll be at the Vermont Soccer Festival with some of our guys. We've been given free tickets to participants in the State Cup, and we're going to give free tickets to participants in Vermont Soccer Festival. So that's like community outreach stuff. So they give us that opportunities, and they also help us with registering our players, being able to provide, and they do provide some degree of financial support. And so when Andrew, the executive director, came to us and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about this thing. Would you guys want to function to the top end of that? It was just a really natural fit because we've been working really closely with VSA kind of through the whole process.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to try to create a little bit of an appetite for what's coming for the Pink and Green podcast. Who are some of the other key players that helped get, and I don't mean just players, but who are the other key people involved in helping to get Vermont Clover started?
Well, the other founders, co-founders, and co-owners are Shane Bufano, who is the owner and I don't know exactly what his title is, president maybe of Queen City Football Club. Without him, it couldn't be happening. And, Brian Buchek, who's the coach and also founder and owner of Vermont United Soccer Academy. So, those guys have been absolutely essential, and we'll have them on here as soon as we can get the schedule sorted out. I don't know who else. There are some other people that when you and I, AJ, we owe each other a conversation about how you got involved, like just the two of us. Cause I have a lot of questions. I have questions of like, what kind of a person just shows up and is just like, you know what I want to do? I want to take pictures and build you guys a scrapbook. And then like gets sucked down the rabbit hole in the way that Neo did in the Matrix, right? I want to really spend time. I want to really spend time on that.
Okay.
So we'll do that. And then what are some other people? What about you, Trey? Who are some other people that you think?
I mean, I would like to give credit to all the interns, Brendan Sweeney, Joey Beggs, Elias Stoll-Alaman. And yeah, just all those guys are super, super important to mention, I would say. And we couldn't do it without them, honestly. Especially like it's really helpful to be able to have people who are willing to volunteer their time. Like they're just helping us out because they want to be a part of the team. And they want to make their best contribution. And that's like super exciting to have people who are willing to do that and so supportive and like just get up and go and be like, yeah, man, like I want to do this. Even though I think Brendan's one of those guys where he recently had like an injury in his senior year of playing. And he's been like the most excited to really just get involved. And I think that's exactly what this is all about. Is like even if we're not playing, like it means a lot to be able to be a part of this and just come together and do something like this, and so like I'm super happy to be able to like get to know those guys and also just do this all together,
Yeah, I mean, those guys are responsible for a lot of the content we're able to get out there. I mean, Trey does the basic design, but those guys are like pounding a lot of it out there on the day to day, which is pretty cool. And again, like enthusiasm is contagious, right? And just to have guys that want to be involved is unbelievable. So we should have all of them on at some point. Now our list is like 10 deep when, I had 3 or 4. This is good, fine,
man. We need the episodes.
Yeah, we do.
Trey, before we part ways, any closing thoughts, last minute words, things you'd like to say on the way out?
Just to say, like, I can't wait for what's to come, and looking forward to being back and seeing everyone in person. So this is awesome. That's about it.
Awesome.
I can't wait to have you back, man. It's like it's the piece that's missing right now is you. That's it.
Yeah, ready to be back on the porch. That's my thing. Back on the porch, back up in Burlington. Can't wait to make the commute. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Trey, thank you so much for sharing your time and the origin story of Clover with us. And Chris, any closing remarks from you?
No. That's it. I'm good. I mean, it's incredible. Trey said it best. Like, can't wait to get back and can't wait to just keep pounding it. It's, until next week, I guess. I've been Chris.
All right. Great. Chris, thank you so much. Trey, thank you. And I'm AJ, and we'll see you next time on the Pink and Green podcast. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Pink and Green podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing their story. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It helps more people discover the growing soccer community here in Vermont. You can follow Vermont Clover FC and the Pink and Green podcast on social media for updates, match coverage, and behind-the-scenes content throughout the season. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep supporting local soccer and keep the game growing.